We are doing something a little bit different today. So, if you guys are watching this, you will see I'm sitting here in unmatching clothes, no makeup on. But I was inspired by our last episode with Taylor Capuano, where we talked a little bit about perfection being the enemy of progress. And I realized that I've spent really so much of my adult life being scared of putting things out there that weren't perfect. I am the poster child for this and have fallen victim to the idea that if something I'm putting out there is not perfect, it's embarrassing or I won't be taken seriously. And I think I've realized that this is actually based a little bit in my masking. And I've realized I've done this quite a bit of my life. And last night I was going through and I watched a video of a girl who has autism, and she said that her special interest is looking beautiful. And it just kind of made me chuckle because I thought, oh my God, this this resonates with my life so much because I spent the majority of my life being the really offbeat kid. And I wasn't the offbeat kid that embraced that. It was always desperately wanting to be cool, wanting to fit in, wanting to feel beautiful, feeling like maybe I was capable of doing that, but I just couldn't put the pieces together. And it wasn't until I competed in beauty pageants. So I did a small breast cancer charity pageant, then went on to win Miss Maryland USA, went to Miss USA, did really well, then competed as Miss DC, went to Miss America. And being able to put on the armor of a polished outside made me feel strong. It made me feel powerful. It made me feel better able to face the day, which sounds insane, but is really just indicative of how our culture is. If you are more polished, if you present yourself well, people are more likely to take you seriously. You are more likely to be allowed into rooms that you wouldn't necessarily be allowed into if you weren't. And I've realized that this is sort of how I face a lot of things. So I was talking to a friend the other day about being invited to an event, and I had the base level tickets, not the VIP tickets, but I wanted to get into the VIP section. And I told her, I said, well, a lot of the times you just have to look the part and walk through the door. And I realized that there are a lot of people who have never experienced being able to put on that armor and just walk through the door. And that was a gift that I was afforded once I had learned how to put the polish on. I always joke like how to put lipstick on a pig. And it has changed the trajectory of my life. And but I've realized I don't see that as intrinsic to who I am. It's just a costume. And so it's odd to me when I have people say, oh, well, you must have been the prom queen. You must have done X, Y, and Z. And absolutely not, because I still feel like that little kid the way that I grew up. I don't feel like the girl who walks into the room with all of the confidence and polish and presents herself well. This is just a skill that I learned later on. All of that to say, I wanted to sit down and just do a solo episode with you guys and talk about that perfection element, the fear of not putting out something perfect. And I think there's a lot of fear around it. One, people won't take us seriously. Two, being embarrassed of a half finished product. I'm trying to think what else it is for me. I just really am hyper focused on wanting what the world sees of me to be just right. And that has stopped me from doing a lot of the things that I want to in my life. This podcast being one of them. I've talked a bit on here about how this is doing a podcast is something I've wanted to do for years and years and years. And I kept getting in my own way by saying, I won't do the podcast until I have a sustainable idea. So it can't be too niche. It can't be too broad. It has to be something that I can easily come up with episodes for. And of course that's practical, but I have missed out on years and years and years of being able to do this just because I didn't have that perfect idea. I also wanted all of the perfect equipment. I wanted the perfect podcast studio. I wanted all of it. And it's been very exciting for me and scary to just sit down and do. And this episode is exactly that. So I am not somebody who would normally just pop on completely. I'm doing this completely unprepared. I have no notes. I have no makeup. I have none of my normal equipment, sans my little mic here. And I'm just going to do it and talk to you guys. And this is going to be a little bit of rejection therapy for me. I don't know how you guys are going to like it, but I think important for me to do for myself, and then also for a lot of our listeners, learn too late. That concept of that was always, man, I wish I knew this sooner. And man, I wish I knew that I could just do stuff and get better as I went along. We always have that, let's throw spaghetti at the wall, see what sticks, and I just couldn't. But this is an important skill in our life. And I fear that there are a lot of incredibly talented, wonderful, innovative people out there that are sitting on ideas that could change our world because they're just too scared to either start, or they've started and it's not exactly what they want. So they're not putting it out into the universe. And that's a problem. One interesting thing I feel I learned too late in life around the concept of imposter syndrome is that there's never a time where you wake up and the grown-ups are here. And I always thought getting to a certain age, meeting a certain set of people, those would be the adults. Those would be the serious people. And maybe this is also too a millennial thing. We have kind of a bit of Peter Pan syndrome, so we don't see ourselves as the adults. But it's twofold. One, the adults are just still kids who have figured out how to polish themselves a little bit better and get a little more serious, but they still struggle with those same issues, those same insecurities. And there's no magic age where you're a grown up. And I look at my parents as that perfect example. You look at your parents like they're God. They have all of the answers. And now being able, I guess, to psychoanalyze them in my childhood, after going to therapy myself, this is not a new concept, but parents are just living life for the first time too. And I remember I had a big knockdown drag out fight with my dad, and talking to an ex-boyfriend about it. And he said that to me, and it has stuck with me my entire life, is my dad's just living life for the first time too. He is experiencing new emotions every day. He is experiencing things for the first time. And we have to be able to give them grace because they're not saints. And having lost my mom at a really young age, it's easy to, how do you say this, really turn them into a saint and think that they've done no wrong. But now looking back at how my mother was a wife, how she was as a parent, how she interacted with people, how she ran her business. Yeah, she was a mature adult, but still struggling with very human elements. And that's okay. And I've beaten myself up a lot, worrying that I wasn't the adult yet. And that also is tied intrinsically to ADHD, or if you're neurodivergent, or if you've had different experiences in your life, your prefrontal cortex doesn't fully develop until significantly later if you are neurodivergent. Also, there are things that can happen in your life that just do not allow you to be in a position where you feel like you're on time with everybody else. And that's a concept I think I've seen quite a bit across social media, people feeling like they're behind. And COVID did a real number on us because if you fell in that sweet spot, so to speak, of being launched into adult life in the middle of COVID, there were pieces missing. There were years missing where you didn't get to have the stepping stones that made you feel prepared. And I think we all need to collectively give ourselves, some leeway there to realize, hey, this was something really, really odd that happened in the world and it's not normal, but there's not some magic moment that you're going to reach where you say, okay, I'm an adult. I thought maybe it would happen with motherhood. So I had my kids and the opposite happened. I felt like my life fell apart and it was like looking in the mirror where I was able to see each and every one of my failings and where I fell short, where I wasn't quote unquote good enough. But what a blessing it was to be able to surrender to the chaos and to say, okay, I am not where I thought I was going to be in life. This was not the experience I thought it was going to be for me, but that's okay because it's going to be a new experience. I am going to roll with the punches. People do this every day. Let's see what we can do. And I have never been happier and more fulfilled. I have never known myself the way that I know myself now. And it has taken so much of struggling, failing, feeling like I was at my absolute max and surviving that. And maybe that's why you see people who have been through all of these trials in their life. It just frames your brain in a different way of, hey, if I've gone through this, I can go through anything. And that was one thing that my mom had said to me right before she passed away. She said, it's all uphill or all downhill from here. Or no, how do we say this? It's only up from here. Anyway, she just said, you can only go up from here. You are now going to experience one of the most horrific things that you can, losing a parent. And not many things in life are going to feel more challenging or tragic than this. So frame that as you will. And that has helped me navigate a lot of challenging moments in my life. It can't be much worse than losing my mom. But one of the things I think that, I don't know, I wouldn't say worse, but different and deeply challenging was moving into parenthood and feeling completely ill-equipped to do it. And maybe I never had babies around growing up. I didn't have friends who had kids before me. It just wasn't in my face. So doing it, I wasn't able to prepare in the way that I always wanted to. And this goes back to the idea of wanting to be perfect instead of just figuring it out along the way. Parenthood did not feel like something I should just be figuring out along the way. It felt like I need the handbook. I want to read. I want to be prepared. I need to have this journey of self-discovery prior to becoming a parent so that I can be fulfilled. I can understand myself. I can be patient, kind, just check all of the boxes. And I did my very best to get there. But as we know, if you are a parent, nothing can prepare you for what it is. You don't know what kind of child you're going to get. If you don't have a support system around you, it will rock your world. It's just something you can't prepare for. And I think that what has allowed me to now get to a stage in my life where I'm willing to just try things. And I'm looking up at my vision board, so to speak, here. And this was the first year, I talked about this in another episode, the first year where I actually wrote down the things that I wanted to accomplish. And I didn't limit myself by only putting down things that I thought were attainable, or just putting a few big things and realizing, okay, there's only 365 days in the year. I can't possibly accomplish this. No, I put them all down. So at the top is to write a children's book. This is an idea that I have had for quite some time. I keep putting it off because of one thing or the other. I wanted to hit 150,000 followers on Instagram. I hit 100,000 last year. And that number also just feels crazy. I have a dollar amount of what I want to make as a creator this year. I also wanted to feel good about my body this summer. That was another thing. I'm like, man, I have spent so many years of my life as summer rolls around. And I know that, summer shouldn't be the indicator of success of whether or not, you've got the perfect body. What is the perfect body? But I want to feel good putting a swimsuit on again. And that's going to take some discipline from me in terms of just getting back on the wagon, so to speak, of being fit and being strong. I don't have to have a perfect Miss USA body, but I want to feel good and strong again. So that's on there. I wanted to foster one talent or interest for my kids. So whether that is dance, gymnastics, a different hobby, I wanted to make sure that I was doing that for them, because that is ticking off the box, I think, in my head of parental fulfillment, of being a good parent. And that you can take, I think, in steps. You can't do all of it at once, but doing small things that enrich your kids, it's also personally fulfilling for you. I also wanted to start a money-making business. This might sound crazy, but I work in the nonprofit space. I've never taken a dollar from my nonprofit. I've never paid myself, which probably stupid, but I just wanted to always make sure that the nonprofit had the funds to continue going on, and I would just take one for the team and not pay myself. So it has led me to coming up with other revenue streams. And I have an idea for a business that I want to start. I have a couple ideas, but I want to actually start one of them. One of them is a physical product. And talking to Taylor in last episode has given me sort of that inspiration of, hey, there are enough resources out there. I can do this. So even if it fails, why not just try? So that is on my list. Number 7 was launch this podcast. And it was incredible to be able to draw a big fat line through that. Yes, we did it. We are here. And we are also doing this solo episode, which has been a big fear point for me. Will people be interested in hearing what I have to say? Will they want to hear me talk for 30 plus minutes about a certain topic? I have no idea. So you guys have to let me know if this is an episode that you like, or if it's just crazy ramblings of, a Delulu person. Moving down the line, I also wanted to have a big press moment for a project that I'm working on. So I have so many ideas for things that I want to do this year. One of them is launching at the end of April for the Previvor. So if you guys are coming in from my Previvor audience, please, please, please stay tuned there. It is very, very exciting. But I wanted to get one big press experience around that to be able to amplify that message. And I also wanted to get one more big sponsor or grant for the Previvor. And you guys would not believe how difficult it is to raise money. And this is such an art. And I now know why there are people out there, this is their entire job. They are just fundraisers. And if that's you, if you are listening, you're a fundraiser, you want to come in and help the Previvor, please, please, please come our way. But that is something that is very important to me. I want this to be a sustainable entity, and I'm just going to continue pitching things out, putting it out in the universe, hoping that people believe in our mission. Again, another tie to our last episode with Taylor Capuano. Cake's Body really believed in us from the beginning, and they have helped position us as a real entity. And that was another thing that was giving me a great sense of imposter syndrome. So as the Previvor grew, in my mind, it was still just me sitting on my couch pretending that this was a quote unquote real foundation. And I had to have this aha moment of, hey, you've been plugging along at this for years and years and years. This is a real foundation. It is helping people. Look at the things that are happening. And this is just like that. When do you become a grown up? You got to stop waiting for a stamp of approval or a merit badge or something that's going to make you feel like, oh my gosh, I've made it. I'm accomplished. I'm here. And Taylor mentioned that in the last episode where I asked her if getting into Ulta was the really big moment for her in her company. Did that make you feel, wow, I've made it? And she said, no, it was getting the first order from somebody that wasn't one of her friends. And that has really stuck with me because, yeah, it is those little moments along the way. I remember when my friend Mara and I, we'd started this PR firm together, and, the first person that paid us to do their PR, the first media outlet that did an article on one of our clients, like that just felt so surreal. And again, it's maybe feeling like this, I'm still a little kid. How are people taking me seriously? How is the world perceiving me enough to want to help me, to want to do this? And you got to get over that point of you're not a little kid anymore. We're all the same. We're all just out there trying to do our best. And you got to give yourself some credit where credit is due. If you are out there trying, failing, then you're doing it. Like that is half the battle. There are so many people that will spend their entire lives having ideas and just never having the courage to try. And that, I'm grateful, is at least something that I've always had the courage to try. And I'm grateful that a handful of those times it has worked out for me. Sometimes it was delusional things that I was willing to try has still worked out for me. And maybe that's given me the self-confidence to continue to try, to put myself out there. But I encourage you, if you have a business idea, if you have a project you want to start, if there's anything that has been on your mind and on your heart, and you've said, man, I just wish I had X, Y, and Z. I wish I had the money to start this. I wish I X, Y, Z. I encourage you to just do it. Or at the very least, write that idea out on paper and take a couple of extra steps to say, hey, what do I actually need to get this started? And you'll be surprised that the steps to getting there really aren't that complicated in almost every case, unless you're deciding to be an astronaut and get your quantum physics degree. It really is not that complicated. And this is just obviously a message to myself, but I think we are, as a generation, as a people, because of how media is, because of this mass communication that we are afforded to see deeply into other people's lives, into their successes, their business ventures, it feels in some way unattainable, especially if you view those people as unattainable. Oh, I could never be that. Oh, I don't have those resources. But the great thing about America is we are a country of doers and starters and bootstrappers, and it just takes the courage to try. So if you are listening to this, if you go on to try something, I would love to hear from you. I'd love to hear what that big dream is, that big idea. And I'd love to do an episode around it. I will find a guest that teaches you how to start. That has been a big thing about this podcast is I'm interviewing people that I want to talk to. I'm interviewing people that are going to help me get to the next stage of my life. And I want that for you as well. So if you're listening, if you've got that idea, you want the expert, slide in my DMs, let me know what it is. We're going to do basket weaving 101 episode if you want. This can be a group project for all of us to get our dream started. So I'm looking at the time now, and I don't know how long I expected this to be, but normally my episodes are about 50 minutes, and I don't think you guys want to hear me talk for 50 minutes. But this episode has been a labor of love for myself. I hope it is an inspiration for you to just get started. And yeah, do the scary thing. Almost every scary thing that I've done in my life, even if it hasn't resulted in exactly what I wanted in the moment, has led me to really the greatest experiences of my life, whether that's trying out for the pageant when I was a punk rock playing outsider and having it actually work out, to just having kids, trying it, starting businesses, having those fail, having difficult conversations with friends, family, just doing, just talking to you guys on the solo episode and hoping that anybody listens or pulls something from it. Go try the hard thing. Put yourself out there. Believe in yourself. The people out there that are succeeding and living the dream that you want are no more special than you. They're no more intelligent. They're no more insightful. Most of the time, they just got the wild hair and had the courage to try. And that can be you too. So, in closing, thank you guys so much for listening to this podcast. Thank you for coming along with me in this labor of love of just trying new things. I have so many ideas for the future, and I'm going to continue to look back to this episode and say, hey, sometimes we just sit down at the desk, plug the mic on, don't care about what we look like, don't care about what the outcome is going to be, and just do. So today, just do.